Hey, Dynamo55B here. I just finished a 3-week trip to Vietnam. I got a lot of travel advice for you guys that are coming down here just for vacation, or maybe to meet the parents of the gal that you're marrying, the guy or gal that you're marrying. And there's a lot of things that you need to know, and I'm gonna be very careful about not talking about the things that are traditionally spoke about in a lot of these, travel type reviews. So I'm gonna talk a lot of new information and get real down into the nuances of traveling to Southeast Asia. Thank you very much for joining me, and stick around for the rest of the show. Bye. All right, let's get started. So I'm actually back home in my studio now, and a little bit about this video before we get into it. It's going to be direct and to the point. It's going to be the information that you need that may not always be, Western politically correct, but this is information I would rather give you now in advance prior to you going, rather than you be woefully unprepared and have a bad experience. So my last trip was to Vietnam, but I have traveled to Southeast Asia different times before. So I'm going to take all of my experience and kind of ball it up and put it in a nice, neat package for you here in this video. I would rather say the more uncomfortable things about my travel experiences. Well, let me back that up. I really didn't have any bad travel experiences to Vietnam. The reason being is because I knew what to expect and I prepared for it. You're only going to have a bad travel experience if you don't prepare for it. The country is not bad. It's you were not prepared for what to expect, or maybe you had unrealistic expectations of what your experience was going to be like. It's not the country that's wrong. It's looking at you're it, right? Because you're the odd one out when you're traveling there. You are the foreigner in their country. So any of those norms that you find off-putting or maybe uncomfortable, that's on you. And there's ways that you can get around that. So that's what this video is going to be about. Okay, so for this first segment, I'm going to cover the following topics that you see on your screen here. There's just too much that I need to get into to make it all in one video. So I'm going to record the entire video, and then I'm going to break it down into different segments, probably in about 10 or 15 minute intervals. The first thing that you need to know about the flight is that you need a passport. That should be applied for, I want to say, at least, let's say, 3 to 4 months in advance prior to your trip. You'll also need a visa. You can find out more information at the U.S. State Department website, and along with additional instructions about import rules and other travel requirements. So you definitely need to check out the U.S. State Department website for beginning your travel plans. Another thing you need to know about the flight is that it is very long. Even though that you're going to have some layovers traveling from the East Coast, I stopped in Dallas-Fort Worth, and then we stopped in Japan. From Dallas-Fort Worth to Japan, that is a very long time to be in a tube. Even if you have the luxury of paying for premium seats, it can be very uncomfortable, and you just can't move around. So it's just a long trip. So I encourage you to rest as much as possible and just be chill. And you're in there, so that's part of the trip. So just be prepared for that. One of the things that I found helps pass the time is if there's a Wi-Fi service. Usually on international flights there will definitely be a Wi-Fi service. Just go ahead and pay for that internet fee. You can get discounts, especially if you have an American Express card or some other like platinum travel card. There's usually some kind of perks that's you can give you a discount on that, if not free entirely. I recommend that you do that because it really does help to pass the time, and you can make reels and play games and watch movies on there. Even though there's movies on the aircraft, you want to have the benefit of having premium sound quality. And if you don't want to use the internet, you just want to use whatever's on the aircraft, I recommend that you just bring a decent set of basic plug-in headphones, not any kind of wireless types. You need the kind that plug in with a standard, the standard jack. I don't know, whatever the standard size is, because the ones that they give you on the airplane, you have to have very loud, and they're very like low fidelity. So you don't want to be blowing out your ears just to try to listen. Okay, on to the next topic. I want to say these are things that Americans should bring for comfort. One of the things that you may not think of bringing is some slippers, both like shower shoes, like plastic ones, and then maybe ones that will keep your feet warm. Because typically in houses in Vietnam, there is just tile floor, and it can get kind of cold, especially even in the morning times. You want to have those, and especially with walking around, it's just polite to have, slippers on. That's the normal thing to have. The reason being I say bring them, even though they of course they sell slippers, is that having large Western size feet sizes, I would say like European size 44 or 10, is extremely rare. And I would say if you wear a size over 7, then you need to bring your own. Bring one of each, maybe even a couple of pairs that you can either afford to lose or throw out. You don't necessarily have to bring them back, but you definitely want to have them, because every hotel that I went to, I would say the largest slipper size there ever was maybe an 8. So you need those, especially when you're in the shower. You don't want to go in there with your bare feet, even though that's normally what you do. But because of like the tile like surface, which for some reason are always like semi-glossy in the shower, you can slip and fall if you don't have the shower shoes on. Just a recommendation in my observation. You definitely want to have those. The next thing that I would recommend is that you go to a doctor prior to you leaving, and you ask them for a mild antibiotic if you're going to be in the city and maybe just running around in the countryside, and then also a strong antibiotic if you plan on visiting any kind of like tropical or jungle regions for kind of whatever you're doing for vacation. The reason being is you need these in the event that you get sick. And then, of course, have that conversation with your doctor about the uses for this, and that will usually be enough for them to write you a prescription for antibiotic without you actually needing it at the moment, is what I'm trying to say. Normally, you get these if there's something wrong with you. They diagnose, say, hey, I want to go, but if I need to take an antibiotic, I'd like to have them with me. Because I'm going to Southeast Asia. Also, get all the vaccinations for common Southeast Asia diseases. And I'll list those. I'll put all that information in the description. You can find this information out on Google as well. There's different type of fevers or different type of viruses that are out there that are not common in the West. So you want to make sure that you get those vaccinations. Of course, bring your medical prescriptions. Definitely very important to bring with you, and always add a week. So if you're traveling for 1 week, bring 2 weeks. If you're traveling for 2 weeks, bring 3 weeks, just in case there's some kind of delay with you getting back or something else happens. Another thing that you want to bring with you is an international power adapter, and get a good one. Some of the collapsible ones are okay, and you want to bring one that has maybe at least 2 different ports on it. And I'll tell you from my experience that typically the outlets are kind of worn out. I don't know why that is, but even in the nice hotels, the one that's the most convenient to you will not work with your standard 110 adapter. You actually need to put a 220 in there for it to work. Like the contacts don't touch. It'll fit inside, but the contacts don't touch, and you won't be able to charge your phone without propping the wire up. So that's why you need to have the international power adapters. Bring a few of them. They're relatively cheap, but don't buy the cheapest one, is what I'm trying to tell you. Another thing you should definitely consider, especially if you have the time to plan your trip to Southeast Asia, learn the language of your target country. It is an absolute must for building rapport and for just rapidly becoming accepted among strangers and family members maybe that you're meeting for the first time. I will leave you a list of some Thai and Vietnamese phrases that you must know. And then, of course, the English translations is the same for every other country in Southeast Asia or any other country in the world, really, because this learning the language of a foreign country is kind of universal. There's certain words and phrases that you must know, and just to get around, and also knowing the responses to those will pay huge dividends. I cannot tell you how much it is, how important that it is. Some of the things that I use personally is the Duolingo. I think that's a fantastic application. Although less sophisticated, but just as useful, is Drop. And then the Speak Vietnamese application that's available for, I believe, iPhone and for Android. Also, when I was learning Thai language, Thai Pod 101 on YouTube is fantastic. Older video content, but they keep their stuff up to date online. And I tell you, I learned to speak Thai with relative proficiency in probably about 16 months of learning. So very good way to do that. Just one other quick thing about the applications. Some of them have free content. Just go ahead and pay for them. Honestly, they're not that expensive, and the content that you get when you unlock it by paying for it is very good, and it's all very useful stuff, especially if you actually get disciplined and you learn the language. Again, it is huge at rapport building. One thing that I found that was kind of fun, especially with my teenage nieces and nephews, and then also it actually, while taking a tour bus trip, killing time in between destinations, one of the things that I did was I tried to speak Vietnamese and just asking questions with some of the teenage travelers there. And of course, they would correct my tone and my pronunciation. And then there was a common, like a school age tongue twister that every Vietnamese adult knows because they teach this in grammar school. And I found it on this application. I'm going to list it here, roll it into the footage. Just say this phrase, right? And it's a total nonsense sentence, but it teaches you all the tones and the tempo of the word, the pronunciations of the word, and everybody loved it. And as a matter of fact, the whole bus was saying it by the time we got to the end of the trip. And of course, when we got to the destination I think it was in Da Nang, right there by the sea, there was a large woman that was selling, I forget what the phrase is now, but I'll roll it into the footage. She was selling the product that was used in the tongue twister. And somebody had mentioned it, and it was laugh for days. We were laughing about that for the rest of the trip. So huge rapport builder, learning the language, and it's fun, right? And they see you embracing that, you'll more rapidly be accepted into family and friends over there. And it just enhances the experience because you can that's your node to connect to the culture. Learn how to use Google Translate. Make sure that you have internet connectivity, of course, too. That's going to be another topic. But Google Translate has a lot of features, and learn to use all of them. So that this way, if you have to use it on the fly, you're not trying to figure it out. It works best in short and concise and direct statements. Don't try to use expressions or jargon or idioms that doesn't translate well at all. Just be direct and to the point. Speak in short sentences, and then tell the person that you're trying to communicate with, if you have a continuing exchange, say, please just speak short, concise sentences, and then it'll translate that, and then their responses to you will be more clear if you need to have a continuing dialogue. So very important to learn some language. It's a huge rapport builder. I'll roll in links and information to get to Duolingo, and you can search all these things in the App Store. But I definitely recommend that you just go ahead and pay for them. prior to your trip and use them, and it will pay huge dividends. I can guarantee you that.